Good morning, Coach Isaac here once again, continuing our readings on the ascetical homilies of St. Isaac the Syrian. This is day 15. We're continuing homily 3, and this is going to be page 128. St. Isaac in this section begins a series of question and answers. Question: what is the nature of the soul? Is it then something passionless and filled with light, or something passionate and dark? Answer: if the nature of the soul was once translucent and pure by the reception of that blessed light, it will be found the same when it returns to its original state. Therefore, when the soul is moved in a passionate way, she is confessedly outside her nature, as the children of the Church maintain. The passions, therefore, entered into the soul afterwards, and it is not right to say that the passions belong to the soul, even though she is moved by them. Hence, it is evident that she is moved by things from without, not by what is her own. If passions are said to be natural because by them the soul is moved through the intermediary of the body, then hunger, thirst, sleep would also be natural to the soul, because she suffers in these things and groans together with the body, in the amputation of its members, in fevers, in diseases, and so forth. For because of her communion with the body, the soul suffers pain together with it, just as the body with the soul. And the soul is moved to gladness by the body's gladness, and she bears its afflictions. Question: what is the natural state of the soul? What is the state contrary to nature? And what is the state above nature? Answer: the natural state of the soul is understanding of God's creatures, both sensory and noetic. The supernatural state of the soul is her movement in the divine vision of the supersubstantial deity. The contranatural state of the soul is her being moved by the passions. And this is exactly what the divine and great Basil has said. When the soul is found in accord with her nature, her life is on high. When she is found outside her nature, she is below upon the earth. When she is on high, she is free from the passions. But as soon as her nature descends from its own state, the passions are found in her. It is evident, therefore, that the so-called passions of the soul are not the soul's by nature. If this be so, then the soul is moved by the body's blameworthy passions, even as she is by hunger and thirst. But since no law has been imposed on her in regard to the latter, the soul is not to be blamed, as she is in regard to the former passions which are subject to reproach. There are times when God permits a man to do something apparently improper, and he receives, instead of blame and censure, a good recompense, as Hosea the prophet, who married a harlot, as the prophet Elias, who put men to death in his zeal for God, and as those who slew their kindred by the sword at Moses' command. It is said, nevertheless, that desire and anger naturally belong to the soul apart from what pertains to the nature of the body, and that these are her passions. Yeah, so, obviously, St. Isaac, number 1, as we've been reading. And number 2, when we're talking about questions on the nature of the soul, the natural state of the soul, state contrary to nature, and what is the state above nature, obviously we're going to get into, complex, thoughts, complex questions. There's obviously going to be, a deep complexity here. But again, we're talking St. Isaac, and so he was so blessed by God, and he mentioned St. Basil, two holy fathers that have greatly been blessed by God to take the greatly complex questions that we have and kind of give it to us in a way that we can begin to understand. And I think it is important for us to understand the differences between our soul and body, and also their interconnectedness, because if we're trying to deal with things, obviously if, we have a physical sickness that a doctor can help us with, and God has blessed that doctor with, talent to help us, then that's who we should be seeking out. But a lot of times the foundation is in our soul. And so, seeking out our spiritual father or participating in the mysteries of the church will help to heal our soul. And then when we begin to understand the interconnectedness of these two, when our body's suffering, our soul's suffering, and vice versa. So when we're healing our body, our soul is, let's just say rejoicing or gaining a sense of healing also, and vice versa. And so when we're dealing with, healing of our soul, through confession, communion, holy unction, participating in the mysteries or the sacraments of the church, and then we can start to see where, we can help the body through addressing the issues of the soul, and help the soul through addressing the issues of the body. And then also, I think what's important here that I'm getting is how we can kind of categorize or differentiate things that may be plaguing us. Is this coming from deep within, or is this coming from without? And so when you're looking at what St. Isaac and St. Basil's saying about the passions of the soul or the passions of the body, then we can start to do that. And always address these issues with your spiritual father, of course. And then lastly, at the end, I think he really touches upon something that's, again, complex and difficult sometimes to comprehend. And it's this: there are times when God permits a man to do something apparently improper, and he receives, instead of blame and censure, a good recompense. And he mentions some examples, let's say, of the prophet who married a harlot, prophet Elias, who put men to death in his zeal for God, and those who slew their kindred by the sword at Moses' command. And so, not only this, but I also, think that something that we deal with a lot as Christians, or maybe people who, may be against Christianity out there, will often say, if your God is such a loving God, then why does he allow bad things to happen to good people? Or in this case, how can good people sometimes seemingly do such horrible things? And so, again, I don't have all the answers. When I'm giving my take on these readings, it's just merely my opinion, and kind of a quick opinion. Sometimes a year from now I'll read this and maybe have a different opinion or a different level of maturity, hopefully. But, and I think what this does touch on is why the law wasn't the total answer. The law was given to Moses and the Jews to kind of streamline them towards, Christ's incarnation, and that the New Testament kind of fulfilled the law. It didn't come to abolish the law, but fulfilled the law. So sometimes, things aren't so stringent in the letter of the law, and only God can comprehend the vastness of how everything interconnects and works together. And so that's where faith comes in, hope and faith. It's like we have to believe and truly understand that God does love all of his children, and that everything can be worked for the good. Of course, we have free will, but God does allow sometimes bad things to happen to good people, and sometimes good people do bad things. And that we got to trust in God's providence, that there's a bigger, much bigger picture, and that what's at stake is eternity, not just merely what we're seeing in the terrestrial, But anyhow, these are some thoughts I'm having when I'm reading this page. Again, very complex page, and please share your thoughts. I'm not the end-all be-all by any means. I'm just an average person that loves God, and definitely appreciates St. Isaac's homilies, and just trying to share and be shared with from others on these, and basically opening the dialogue by reading these and stating my opinions and thoughts on this. And hopefully we'll grow and mature together, and help each other navigate the challenges of this world. So in the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit, have a great day.